Have you ever stopped to wonder who Huggy Wuggy truly was before becoming the terrifying blue creature that stalks players inside the abandoned Playtime Co. factory? Many people simply see Huggy as a horror game monster designed to scare players, but when we carefully analyze his behavior, his environment, and the hidden narrative clues scattered throughout the game, a far more tragic story begins to emerge. What if Huggy Wuggy was not born a monster at all? What if, behind those lifeless eyes and that unnatural smile, there once existed a frightened human child who was stripped of his identity and transformed into something unrecognizable? In today's investigation, we will carefully examine every hidden detail, environmental clue, psychological hint, and narrative fragment found inside Poppy Playtime. By connecting all of these elements together, we will uncover the disturbing truth behind Huggy Wuggy's real identity and reveal the tragic fate that awaits the victims of Playtime Co.'s darkest experiments. The Abandoned Factory and the Mystery of Disappearance. Poppy Playtime is set inside the abandoned toy factory of Playtime Co., a once famous company known for producing some of the most beloved children's toys in the world. 10 years before the events of the game, every single employee inside the factory mysteriously disappeared under unexplained circumstances. Despite extensive rumors and speculation, no bodies were ever discovered, no survivors were found, and no official explanation was ever provided to the public. As a result of this unexplained incident, the entire factory was permanently shut down and sealed. Over time, the building slowly decayed, transforming from a cheerful workplace into a silent industrial ruin filled with darkness, rusted machinery, and forgotten hallways. This sudden and total disappearance of the workforce became one of the greatest unsolved mysteries surrounding Playtime Co., raising countless questions that would remain unanswered for an entire decade. Years later, the protagonist receives a strange letter inviting them to return to the factory. The letter offers no explanation regarding who sent it or why it was delivered. However, it contains a single chilling message that immediately captures attention. Everyone thinks the staff disappeared 10 years ago. We're still here. Find the flower. This message strongly suggests that something or someone remains trapped inside the factory. Driven by curiosity and a desire to uncover the truth, the protagonist decides to return, unknowingly stepping into a nightmare far beyond imagination.
The true nature of Playtime Co. At first glance, Playtime Co. appeared to be nothing more than a successful toy manufacturing company. Their colorful products, cheerful mascots, and joyful advertisements created the image of a friendly brand dedicated to making children happy. However, as players explored deeper into the factory, they quickly realized that this public image was nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion. Hidden behind locked doors, secret corridors, and restricted laboratories lies a horrifying reality. Playtime Co. was not simply producing toys. The company was conducting secret human experiments that violated every ethical and moral boundary imaginable. Through scattered documents, audio recordings, and environmental storytelling, players discover the existence of a classified research project known as the Bigger Bodies Initiative. The primary objective of this project was to transfer human consciousness into artificially engineered bodies, effectively creating living beings inside toy-like forms. This process would allow Playtime Co. to create workers that did not require rest, did not demand payment, and could operate continuously without complaint. In pursuit of this goal, the company began experimenting on human subjects, transforming them into monstrous creations designed to serve corporate interests. And among all of these horrifying experiments, one subject stood out as the most successful and the most disturbing of all: Huggy Wuggy.
The Bigger Bodies Initiative, a project without moral limits. As players continue to explore the factory, they slowly uncover the existence of a secret research project known as the Bigger Bodies Initiative. This project represents the darkest chapter in Playtime Co.'s history, as it completely abandoned ethical boundaries in the pursuit of scientific advancement and corporate profit. According to hidden documents and audio recordings, the main objective of the Bigger Bodies Initiative was to successfully transfer human consciousness into artificially created bodies. These new bodies were designed to be larger, stronger, more flexible, and far more durable than normal human bodies. By doing so, Playtime Co. hoped to create living workers that could operate indefinitely without rest, salary, or resistance. From a business perspective, this idea was revolutionary. A workforce that never gets tired, never complains, and never asks for payment would generate unimaginable profit. However, the process required to achieve this goal involved extreme physical experimentation, invasive neurological procedures, and irreversible biological modification. In other words, Playtime Co. was no longer creating toys. They were manufacturing living beings through human experimentation. And to make matters worse, the individuals chosen for these experiments were selected specifically because their disappearance would go unnoticed. Why orphan children were chosen? One of the most disturbing aspects of the Bigger Bodies Initiative is the identity of its test subjects. When examining the environmental clues, narrative hints, and background lore, the most logical conclusion is that Playtime Co. primarily experimented on orphaned children. Orphans represented the most vulnerable group in society. They lacked family protection, social visibility, and legal advocacy. If an orphan disappeared, there would be no parents demanding answers, no relatives organizing search efforts, and no public pressure forcing investigations. As a result, these children could vanish without attracting attention. Furthermore, Playtime Co. publicly promoted charitable adoption programs, presenting themselves as a benevolent company dedicated to helping disadvantaged children. However, hidden records and environmental storytelling strongly suggest that these programs served as recruitment pipelines for human experimentation. Under the disguise of compassion, the company gained unrestricted access to countless vulnerable children. From a scientific perspective, children also provided biological advantages. Their developing brains exhibited greater neural plasticity, meaning they were more adaptable to extreme neurological changes. This significantly increased the likelihood of successful consciousness transfer and biological restructuring. In simple terms, children were easier to modify, both mentally and physically. By combining social vulnerability with biological adaptability, orphaned children became the ideal test subjects for Playtime Co.'s horrifying experiments. Among all experimental subjects, Huggy Wuggy holds a unique position. According to internal documents hidden throughout the factory, Huggy Wuggy was designated as Experiment 1170 and recorded as the first fully successful result of the Bigger Bodies Initiative. This classification alone reveals a crucial fact: Huggy Wuggy was once human. More specifically, all available evidence strongly suggests that Huggy was originally an orphan child who was brought into the facility under false pretenses. His consciousness was forcibly extracted and transferred into an artificially constructed body, which was then engineered for maximum physical capability, flexibility, and intimidation. This new body allowed Huggy to reach extreme heights, navigate confined spaces with unnatural agility, and exert tremendous physical strength. On the surface, the experiment appeared successful. However, while the physical transformation succeeded, the psychological consequences proved catastrophic. The human mind was never meant to endure such violent restructuring. The process shattered Huggy's sense of identity, distorted his perception of reality, and inflicted severe psychological trauma that would permanently alter his behavior.
One of the most important clues to Huggy Wuggy's true nature lies in his behavior. Unlike traditional horror game monsters that rely purely on instinct, Huggy demonstrates a remarkable level of strategic thinking. Throughout the game, Huggy does not immediately attack the player. Instead, he observes from a distance, tracks movement patterns, and carefully selects the most effective moments to strike. This behavior indicates advanced cognitive processing rather than simple predatory instinct. Huggy actively studies the player's actions. He anticipates their decisions. He positions himself strategically. These behaviors strongly suggest that Huggy retains fragments of human intelligence, including reasoning, memory, and planning. From a psychological standpoint, this type of calculated stalking behavior is characteristic of individuals who rely on strategic survival rather than instinctive aggression. This further supports the theory that Huggy's human consciousness, although severely damaged, still remains active within his monstrous form.
Throughout the factory, players encounter numerous security cameras that reveal Huggy silently watching from hidden vantage points. These brief moments serve as powerful narrative clues that emphasize Huggy's awareness and intelligence. When Huggy appears on these monitors, he does not behave like a mindless creature. He stands motionless, maintaining visual contact with the camera, as if consciously observing the player. This behavior suggests a deep understanding of surveillance systems and environmental monitoring. Such awareness implies that Huggy understands the concept of observation itself. He recognizes that he is being watched and that he can watch in return. This cognitive recognition further reinforces the argument that Huggy possesses retained human-level intelligence. Rather than reacting impulsively, Huggy demonstrates patience, restraint, and calculated decision-making. These qualities reveal a mind that continues to function beyond basic animal instinct.
During chase sequences, Huggy navigates the factory with extraordinary efficiency. He moves through ventilation shafts, maintenance corridors, and complex intersections with remarkable precision, often anticipating the player's route and intercepting them at critical points. This level of spatial awareness strongly suggests long-term familiarity with the factory's layout. The most logical explanation is that Huggy lived and moved throughout this environment long before his transformation. As a human child confined within the facility, he would have gradually memorized its corridors, pathways, and hidden routes. Even after undergoing radical biological transformation, these spatial memories appear to remain deeply embedded within his subconscious. His monstrous body may have replaced his human form, but his memory of the environment still guides his movements. Children's drawings and fragmented memories. Scattered throughout the factory are numerous childlike drawings depicting tall blue creatures standing beside children, along with scenes of confinement, observation, and isolation. These drawings are simplistic in style, yet deeply disturbing in content. The resemblance between these drawn figures and Huggy Wuggy is undeniable. This suggests that these drawings represent fragmented memories created by children before or during the experimentation process. These artistic expressions likely served as a subconscious coping mechanism, allowing the children to externalize their fear, confusion, and suffering. In Huggy's case, these drawings may represent remnants of his original identity struggling to survive beneath layers of psychological damage. This interpretation adds a tragic emotional dimension to Huggy's character, transforming him from a mere monster into a deeply traumatized victim.
Cut audio logs and deliberate information suppression. Throughout the game, players encounter numerous audio recordings that abruptly cut off, become distorted, or contain missing segments. These interruptions strongly indicate deliberate censorship by Playtime Co. The company clearly sought to erase evidence of failed experiments, psychological collapses, and fatal outcomes. By removing these records, they attempted to maintain the illusion of success and conceal the devastating human cost of their research. It is highly likely that Huggy's complete experimental history was among the suppressed data. This absence of information serves as further proof that his transformation involved extreme suffering and irreversible damage. When all evidence is carefully examined, one conclusion becomes unavoidable. Huggy Wuggy was once a human child, most likely an orphan, who was abducted, experimented upon, and transformed into a living weapon for corporate profit. He is not merely a horror game antagonist, he is the embodiment of scientific arrogance, corporate greed, and moral corruption. Huggy Wuggy is not the villain of Poppy Playtime. He is its greatest tragedy.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome videos.